Hello guys. Welcome to another video. This is Wisdom King YouTube channel. By the way, subscribe over YouTube channel for more exciting videos of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. Spoiler alert, in this video used images just for reference. Chapter 1. The Eve of the Festival. Part 4. If you haven't seen previous videos of Chapter 1 yet, take a look, there is a link in the description. The day after I spoke with Blue Moon's royal couple, I was greeted by another big name, Gazel, the Dwarven king. Well, Rimuru, here I am, he said as he sat across from me with an audible whump. My first journey by carriage in far too long. I'm exhausted. Imposing as always, to be sure. He was already reaching out for the tea and snacks on the table, like they were his God-given right. Whoa there, don't take mine, too. Alright. I was a little slow on the trigger. In an instant, the last donut on the table was up and into his mouth. I had been looking forward to that. Who knew he had a sweet tooth to go with his tremendous drinking habit? There's just never any underestimating him. No need to sweat the details. If such trifles still bother you, you have much left to learn. Much left to learn how. You're the one stealing my donuts. I stared at the self-serving Gazel, but he gave me no quarter, returning the gaze. And thanks to the chiefs raising a hue and cry, we had a whole caravan of carriages. The length of it was ridiculous. And it's all your fault, Rimuru. As he explained in great detail, the journey here from Dwagan normally took a day on winged horse. Since this was an official state visit, however, he wasn't allowed to go with the Pegasus Knights alone. It wasn't just because of security concerns either. Gazel would be seeing nobility from around the world, and as king of the mighty nation of Dwagan, he needed to show he was a military power. This meant having to pack multiple changes of clothes and such, along with administrators and attendants to help dress him properly. It made his entourage a more than decently sized crowd. If you travel as a king, you need a royal amount of preparation. Having a paved highway to travel on was certainly a boon, but the past few days of travel were just murder on me. That must have been why Gazel kept skipping out on his kingdom to travel as light as possible. And come to think of it, Soei had reported that the highway from Blue Moon was jam-packed with carriages and the like, enough so that the watch needed to play traffic cops for a while, and all the inns along the way were booked solid. Which was great, in a way, but it also reminded me of the need for a larger-scale transport system. Cars in Japan these days, after all, break down very rarely, and if they do, you can call for roadside service and get it handled in no time flat. In this world, though, if you break a wagon axle or something, you're in trouble. Simply carting the vehicle out of the way of traffic is a painstaking ordeal. You also had horses to take care of, and overall, the whole thing was rife with pitfalls. I deliberately planned for wide highways in anticipation of this, but it still didn't solve the problem. I was gathering info on these incidents so we could tackle them in the future, but judging by Gazel's tale, long-distance travel as a noble was an extremely arduous undertaking. It seemed the traffic jam had mainly been caused by far more nobles deciding to participate than I'd planned for. I'll need to consider things like that more next time. It'd be nice if we could develop trains and make all of this a lot more comfortable, fast. But regardless. You know, I didn't expect to see you here at all. I figured you'd send an envoy instead. It was true, I really hadn't. So I was honest with him, hoping he'd take the hint to stop griping at me. It didn't work. You think I would do that? When I know you're up to some kind of scheme again. I can't sleep at night until I see what it is with my own two eyes. And also, I have a question for you. What? So you fought Hanata Sakaguchi? The whole raw thing, that's a lie, isn't it? I figured he knew that, and he did. He was aware I'd fought her, and heck didn't believe the official results one bit. By the looks of things, he assumed I beat her. Well, you could call it winning the battle and losing the war, but yeah, I won. I explained to Gazel how it had all worked out in the end, warning him to keep it under his hat for now. Unbelievable. That woman, of all people, frankly, she's stronger than I am. Her swordsmanship, for one, but even in overall strength, I'd lose. You really beat her. This was some real talk from Gazel. I guess I'd impressed him. As a hero king, Gazel would never get a chance to spar with Hanata, so he used his network of spies to analyze her strength instead. The conclusion he made from their findings, he'd be on the ropes. Hearing I'd won must have sincerely surprised him. Luck had a lot to do with it. I mean, she really was a lot stronger than Clayman, and he was a demon lord. I think the skills I'm blessed with had a lot to do with it. Let's be straight, if I didn't have Raphael, I'd have lost. And Raphael is a skill of mine, but he's also managing all my other skills. If he hadn't harnessed some powers I wasn't even aware I had, there's no way I could have beaten Hinata. Ha, luck is as important a strength as any other. I'm glad to see my old sparring partner succeed, but I hate to admit how inferior I am that readily. Well, what do you want me to say? With my own, real powers, I can't even beat Hakuro yet. Ah, you're as strange to me as always, aren't you? Real or not, those skills are part and parcel of your battle strength, aren't they? He looked a bit exasperated, but I really meant it. Without Raphael, I think my best match for a sparring partner would be Gopta, actually. Not that I'd tell anyone. Well, whatever. So, he said, erasing his scowl and giving me a serious look, what are you up to this time? This was his way of switching to his main subject, apparently. I had no idea what it was. What do you mean? What do I mean? The Western Holy Church sent us a missive asking to open a channel for future negotiations. They used to classify us as a nose away from monsters. Why'd they overturn their doctrine like that? It was so sudden, I just know you have to be behind it. Ah. Gazel's shouting reminded me of my conversation with Hinata and her people. Yes, I had suggested that she could get King Gazel involved. The Dwarven Kingdom had retained its neutrality for 1,000 years. You could place boundless trust in them, and even the most orthodox adherents of the church couldn't seriously think dwarves were the same thing as monsters. Some, maybe, but it had to be a tiny minority. That was my motivation behind the suggestion to Hinata, but I forgot to, actually ask King Gazel for permission to do that. Or, really, I didn't think I needed his approval. I wasn't expecting him to get this riled up over it. Best to play dumb for now. I doubt Hinata explicitly said it was my idea. Oh, well, I have to say, it's the first time I've heard about this. But you know, I think duking it out with Hinata has helped us develop a sort of friendship. That's how we reconciled things, besides, and we agreed that we'll try to stay on good terms in the future. So maybe that got them in the spirit, huh? Like, it inspired them to make some official overtures with you, too. Hosh. Gazel raised a doubtful eyebrow. It's times like these that I seriously wished I was in slime form. I thought I could feel a cold sweat running down my back, even though I don't actually sweat.
Notice. The subject Gazel Dwargo is applying read thought to your surface mentality. This is being permitted due to a lack of perceived hostile or malicious intent. Block this skill. Yes. No.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. If it's something that important, then just tell me, Raphael. But that explained things. I had thought it was a little strange before, but Gazel can read people's minds, huh? No wonder I've always felt a bit odd around him, like he was probing my brain for answers. Between his accurate reading of my actions during battle and how he always seemed a step ahead of me in our conversations, it only made sense he was doing that. The great sage evolving into Raphael must have helped me recognize the read thought when Gazel pulled the trigger on it. It didn't seem to be active all the time, thank heavens, but who knows how much info he took from me just now. I gave Gazel a glance. He grinned back at me, a blue vein visible on his forehead. Hey, you saw my read thought, did you? Well, I applaud you for it, but if you blocked it, that must mean you're thinking something evil, I presume. And no, I don't think so. You fool. I caught a glimpse of you there. It told me you thought it best to get me wrapped up in this. Crime never pays, I suppose. He then more or less forced me to confess exactly how my conversation with Hinata had gone. I see. So the 7 days clergy was behind their humans first policy. And I think Hinata's people are thinking about purging the church of anyone poisoned by the 7 days thinking. Given how they're all dead, I'm sure she can sniff out their sympathizers well enough. I went over the internal dealings I had seen in the Western Holy Church and Lubulius, carefully leaving out Luminous's real identity. Gazel nodded and pondered for a minute. I imagine you are right. In which case, it would be foolish to turn this down, then. He had decided to accept Hinata's, or the church's, request. I thought you would say that. Enough from you. Doing my diplomacy for me, without permission. But oh well, no need to be a stick in the mud during this festive occasion. You've given me only the best seats, I am sure. I might as well enjoy what you've got for me. After that fit he threw, he was willing to give up the subject for now. I figured he was happy enough with how things turned out, but I wasn't stupid enough to let him know that. I had word that Hinata and her paladins would be at the Tempest Founders Festival as well, so I figured it best for them to meet directly and work matters out. Gazel no doubt had some of his own advisors to deliberate with too. So I promised him we'd set up discussions after the festival. He was soon on his way. We hope you all enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, then subscribe over YouTube channel for more exciting videos.